Hello, welcome to another session of my Not Your Average Bible Studies. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks. This is a metaphysical reading of the New Testament. It is, what do I mean by metaphysical reading, I guess? I am reading from a standpoint and background knowledge of metaphysics versus Christian tradition or Catholicism or anything like that. I don't come from a traditional background in that sense, and I am not educated in that way, really. I have begun this sort of reading of a Gideon's Pocket Bible that I found that found its way into my life. And last summer I started reading it, and somehow through many external validations and synchronicities and things, I've been called to start reading out of here. So this has evolved into a 21st session, I believe, today, and I'm still in Matthew. We're going to start off chapter 12. It is Easter Sunday, April 20th, 2025. Interesting points to bring up for Easter. I've, for the first time in my life, actually, heard the entire story and took it upon myself to kind of educate myself about the Holy Week, Palm Sunday, what is actually behind the name of these holidays that I've always kind of heard thrown around there a million times in my life, but never actually knew the circumstances or the story behind it, or the last week of Jesus' life. Just like I've never read the New Testament, I know, of course, the plot points, I guess, that every person in society becomes exposed to, especially being from the United States. And, I'm a bit older than the young crowd these days, where public schools stopped, teaching this kind of stuff, and there's less and less Christians and less tradition in America. But, I went to school through the 90s, and it was still very much oriented towards traditional white American culture that we would say was American culture, versus today, which is a total counterculture of that. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to get into politics and current events or anything like sociological nonsense. Let's stick to, what we're here to talk about. And I'm going to pick it up where we left off. Thank you if you're new. If you are a returning listener, thank you very much for coming back. I really appreciate everyone who checks out my channel and who listens. Let's get down to business, I guess. Sorry, I should have put it open before I started. Okay, chapter 12. At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. I love, I cannot get past the parallels to the rules, the mandates, the laws, the hierarchy, this expectation of blind obedience to an absolutely inverted authority who doesn't follow their own laws, and who's created these sort of lawyer loopholes and all of these little step outs and alleyways and all of these different definitions and explanations to sort of skirt around and away from that which is the honest truth, that which is the law of one, that we are all of one, and that we should, we are a reflection of one, right? We all come from the same before and the same after. But yeah, anyways, we see that so much in the world today. And I love this part here, how, the discourse back and forth between Jesus and the Pharisees, and just the wisdom with which he chooses to assert truth, right? And there's a certain way to deal with liars and those who bend their light into certain self-serving angles and aspects, right? We shine light that doesn't angle correctly to their shadowed puppet show. Well, you can see all the strings and you can see the hands, and it's not as scary as when the light points in the direction that the puppet show requires for the audience to see it as, believable shadows on the wall, and to become engulfed in it and to fool themselves into that. That's the whole other aspect, is, the watching audience. Anyways, let's keep it straight to the point. I'm not going to get on sidetracked too much, hopefully. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was a hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of God, and did eat the shew bread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests? Or have ye not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days that the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath, and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy, and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. This is, again, one of the things that I really appreciate, and coming to understand more in a translative way, metaphysically speaking, about the living Word, the Son of Man, the living God. All of these sort of phrases and interchangeable depictions of a live consciousness, to respect that sovereign life and light that is the fire within all of us, that is aliveness, that is conscious awareness, that is the walking God in itself, in manifestation. And it's so interesting, to call them out for the hypocrites, the things that are hypocritical, clearly, that are going on, and to draw parallels, right, to himself in that way. And then to greatly remind, again, the Pharisees, not just of the hypocrisy and of the sacredness, say, of David, or of God, and of their God, and of Jesus and himself, right? That he's trying to point out to them that the consciousness of the spirit alive is what matters. And to be alive and experiencing life is the expression of God. And if you're alive, and one is alive and walking as God, and sees fit to eat something, they should eat. If it comes from an intention of pure desire, if it comes from a place of benevolence, harmonious, that your system needs nourishment, it's kind of cut and dry. They've made these loopholes and all of these really strict boundaries and laws to segregate what's allowed to be done. And it's, if it was actually something that should be cast blame for, that was, an offense in a real manner, then have something to say. But when there's greater offenses happening out there, how dare you try to, come and say, cast blame, about eating food on the Sabbath, or picking food, especially like a laborious act. I'm not sure if they did fasting completely. I'm not going to act like I know a whole lot about the faiths and what their Sabbath really means to them and all of this, because I really don't. But I'm just giving my perspective, obviously. But it makes a lot of sense, from an energetics point of view. If you're coming from honest service of a regular positivity and production, I mean, it should be allowed. It doesn't really matter when it is. And, the putting of restraints and restrictions on time like that in itself is a really negative alignment. It's not positively aligned service to other at all. It's a segregated service to a self-serving system that requires all others to operate under its control and within its means, not as a sovereign, righteous being, freely oriented soul, and of course that's what we're birthed here to be. That's what the Son of Man is. That's what conscious awareness is. It's when we individuate and awaken up to that, that's the power of choice and free will. That's the name of the game, right? And we should be freely to do as we see fit, as long as we're not hurting others and whatever is the case, right? So that's what I hear out of this back and forth of it. That's my modern day translation that I heard when I read this. Let me pick it back up at 8 where I left off. For the Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath day. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue, and behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. And when he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on to it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore is it lawful to do well on the Sabbath days? Right? Sort of just exactly like what I was saying before I started reading. Let's just get back into what the book is saying, right? 13. Then saith he to the man, Stretch forth thy hand, and he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. Then the Pharisees went out and held a council against him, how they might destroy him. But when Jesus knew it, he withdrew himself thence, and great multitudes followed him, and he healed them all, and charged them that they should not make him known. Interesting to think, right? To freely offer service and to really be able to, no strings attached, in such a miraculous way, right? To know the truth of another so deeply as to be able to just uncover it with that one acknowledgement, that consent to it, the belief, and it's explained as a belief in him and to go through him. However, I think that to me is an acknowledgement of the divine connection of gnosis and knowing, and that of the source connection. I think perhaps Jesus brought out to others their truth and confirmed it in a way so deeply to them, and that it was undeniable. And in that great undeniable knowing, you free yourself. You remember the perfect self of you, and it can and does create miraculous healings. But again, I think we need to be healed ourselves. We have to be living a life of light in a clearly reflective manner, not an infestation of shadows, which in itself is a difficult task these days. Let's get back to the book. Let's see, we left at 16. And charged them that they should not make him known. How, I think that's what I almost started off to say about, the sketchiness of times and of how many healing doctors, even in these days and over the last couple of decades, have been doing great healing, miraculous work that is just regular organic corrections, because we are meant to be perfect beings. We were created with these wonderful immune systems, miraculous body vessels that are healing machines of organic infinite intelligence beyond the capacity of quantum computers, beyond the capacity of whatever a human thinks that it could build, or try to scrape across AI and build a plethora, of what? Of your building of dead language, your building of old information that's already been used up. Creator source creation creates newness out of nothingness. You can't compete with that. But now off on a tangent again. Okay, 17. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Behold my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall shew judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not strive nor cry, neither shall any man hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed shall not he break, and smoking flax shall he not quench, till he send forth judgment unto victory. And in his name shall the Gentiles trust. Now, this is an interesting prophecy in itself, and like I said, I don't know a lot about all of these things and Old Testament kind of things, and what a lot of these prophets are all about. And a lot of this seems to be like, current events kind of social drama, and things. And I just don't have the background knowledge to make the connections or distinctions. But it's interesting in itself, just as an innocent bystander, to fly on a wall, to sort of hear the story and to listen to it. And, I've talked about that word Gentiles quite a few different times and what it could mean. And maybe it is just of the general consciousness, mainstream people of the cities, people of the normies, as we call them these days. Perhaps the gospel's written later will say about trying to translate the scamdemic to the normies. This is a whole different quest of truth that we set upon us, that we're amongst these days. And there's different slang and language, there's different symbology, different in vogue kind of things, right? That I just don't think the capacity of translators and historians could ever even understand and grasp. Even, but like we said, this could be, propaganda plagiarized and put up on a pedestal for some kind of reason, done by the matrix overlay and archonic structures in itself anyway. You can't hide the light, and you can't deny the truth. The truth will always bleed through, run up. It's going to make its way through no matter what. So I feel like no matter what, it's worth reading. And like I've said a couple of times in these sessions, and even before I got started reading this, I think there's worth in it no matter where it's originated from, because there's some things that are just recurrent and undeniable, So yeah. Anyways, we can have conversations about Gentiles and what those other types of things. I know that there's a whole other aspect of very real and a very incorrect translations and depictions of hierarchy and this chosen people and what has to do with faith and these sort of boundaries set and goy and all this kind of stuff that um, you know, it's very derogatory towards people like myself. And it's just, some of that is like, okay, is this just another club, big club that we're not supposed to be a part of? But again, I think the seeking of truth in itself is a club without boundaries. There's no exclusions from being part of it, but only you can know you're telling the truth, and only you know as far in as you're getting, because it just becomes more honest, and you become more honest and more honest. But you know, it's also kind of like a funhouse mirror. It's not just plexiglass, it's mirrors too. Oh, what a trip. Anyways, let's get back to the text here. 22. Then was brought unto him one possessed with a devil, blind and dumb, and he healed him, insomuch that the blind and dumb both spake and saw. And all the people were amazed, and said, Is not this the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. This is another really great thing that I love, how Jesus so plainly speaks of the truth and hypocrisy, and how truth is one, it only goes in one direction. It's only moving forward. There's only getting more of it, and it only has one path behind it because it's come from one source only, And so when there's bends and wrinkles and all of these trips up and loops and things happening, he's so great at pointing them out with such honesty. That it just, like, I love this part here. And Jesus knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought into desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And if I, by Beelzebub, cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Right? Therefore, they shall be your judges. Right? One of us is a liar, one of us is telling the truth. You can't serve two masters. And so, just like you can't pay a debt and owe a debt, it doesn't work like that. You can't offer out something freely and then expect a specific retribution afterwards. That negates the free service of it. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God is come unto you. It's like the mic drop, right? Or else, how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then spoil his house? He that is not with me is against me, and he that gareth not with me scattereth abroad. Wherefore I say unto you, all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto men, but the blasphemy against the Holy Ghost shall not be forgiven unto men. This is so deep and true. It's like, okay, if you everybody makes mistakes, everybody gets upset, we all have emotions, we all have these earthly catalytic things to deal with. We're prismatic beings working towards becoming children of light, right? Working towards back to oneness with Source Creator, towards our best self. But that an acknowledgement is to say that we are not there yet, right? It's so crucial to remember that, okay, if we are having these sort of angst, as these arguments and anger towards each other, it will be forgiven, because that's of human worldly emotions. But to speak ill truth, a manipulative, self-serving lie against your own truth, to bend your light in a way that thinks that it's not seen by God. That's what blasphemy in my eyes really means. That's the incorrectness of it. And why people say it's so quote unquote bad and God doesn't like it, or it's not really because of offense to a persona, I wouldn't think. It's the bending of your own light. It's detrimental. It's harming to you. It hurts you. And it also reflects out pain and negativity to the collective and hurts the rest of your brothers and sisters, humans, this species. It ripples out into all other living life forms around us, that we are here to be caretakers and stewards of. And so it's harmful to the whole, and when we choose to do that, even in the face of help, in the face of corrective knowledge, to forcefully still continue to do something like that, I believe is what is a blasphemy against the Holy Ghost and shall not be forgiven, is what he's saying, and what I feel is here being spoken. And so whoso shall ever speaketh a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whoso shall ever speaketh against the Holy Ghost, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world, neither in the world to come. Either make the tree good and make his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by his fruit. And this just reminded me so much of something my husband always says to our sons. They're 18 and 10, 11. He just turned 11. If you want to act like a jerk, you'd better be prepared to be treated like a jerk. And, it's kind of harsh and difficult to teach your children these harder truths, but I feel it's a slice of the pie of unconditional love here, kind of tough love, to know that, you're judged by your actions, and you better be prepared to be treated accordingly by the world based on how your actions speak about you. And if they're rude, if they're dishonest, if they're manipulative or bully-esque, or, then you better be prepared for the world to view you in that way and to treat you in that way. But if they're kind and helpful and patient, you will be prepared to make lots of friends and be well received always, and those things really speak volumes for themselves. But I think when we don't have good mentors and teachers, parents, to hold our youth accountable in that way, it's so easy to fall into these sort of victim mentalities and incorrect, bully personas and all this kind of, I talk about slave master cycle is what I like to call it a lot, but it's just the negative alignments. It's self-serving partnerships, basically. Anyways, but in the Bible sense, and in these terms, Jesus speaks it so well. Either make the tree good or make his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by his fruit. I love this part. I'm going to end with this, actually, since we're at a half an hour, but this is I love some of the ways he speaks and just the truth. It's just so wonderful. And here with 34, he says, O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. It's like you're running negative systems and you have hate in your heart. So how would you ever think that anything good is going to come out of that? You know, same thing with the negative systems. You're never going to get positivity and productivity out of that, no matter which way you try to cut it. So that's my energetic, metaphysical dissection so far today. I think we'll leave it there. And I'll come back next Sunday and close out 12. Thank you so much for joining me here on Easter Sunday. If you've devoted time to this today, I appreciate it so much. If it's any other day in the future, thank you for joining and thanks for listening. You can always find more from me if you're looking for anything else on amariespeaks.com, or if you use Telegram, I'm over there on Amarie Speaks, and I share daily memes and infographics, things on introspection, spirituality, and happiness. BitChute and YouTube. That's about it for me. Have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you for your beautiful contribution to our collective. Certainly wouldn't be the same without you. Thank you so much for witnessing mine. Truly appreciate your time and energy, and I will catch you next time.